She was a poor girl who sold her innocence just to survive. He was a billionaire trapped in a world of power and betrayal. When their lives collided, secrets, danger, and heartbreak threatened to tear them apart. But what happened next will leave you speechless. So sit back, grab a popcorn, and watch till the very end, because this story will change the way you believe in true love. Amelia sat at the back row of the lecture hall, her head bent low over her notes. Her eyes felt heavy, but she forced them open. The smell of soy milk lingered in her breath, her only meal that morning, with the same dry bun she had eaten the night before. Her stomach grumbled softly, but she ignored it. Around her, other students whispered and laughed, some sneaking quick pictures on their phones. Amelia had grown used to it. To them, she was the poor girl who wore the same faded dress twice a week, the one who carried old notebooks instead of sleek laptops. They did not know she worked nights at a piano lounge, gave private tutoring lessons in the afternoons, and sometimes served food at a small restaurant, all while caring for her elder brother David, who had been lying in a hospital bed for 2 years. The lecture hall suddenly grew quiet. The heavy doors opened and Kelvin walked in. He was tall, handsome, and sharply dressed in a navy blue suit that seemed to shine under the fluorescent lights. Students straightened up immediately. Some girls whispered excitedly, "That's him. That's Mr. Kelvin, the handsome CEO." Kelvin was not only a wealthy businessman, but also a guest lecturer at the university. Sometimes the school invited him for big speeches about business, leadership, and multinational investments. His presence carried power, and his cold, unreadable face kept students in awe. Amelia tried to focus on her notes, but her tired body betrayed her. She blinked too long, and the words on the paper blurred. Her chest felt tight. She had barely slept the night before after working late at the piano lounge. Kelvin began speaking, his deep voice commanding attention. "Business is not only about numbers, it is about people. You must understand the human side of leadership." Amelia's hand trembled as she tried to write. Suddenly, her pen slipped. The room spun. She collapsed forward. The sound startled the whole hall. "Amelia!" someone gasped. Kelvin stopped speaking. His cold eyes flickered with concern as he stepped down quickly from the podium. Students shifted aside, watching as he bent beside her. "Get her some water," he ordered. His voice was firm, the kind that left no room for delay. Amelia opened her eyes weakly. She saw his face close to hers, a sharp jawline, eyes that were stern yet unexpectedly worried. "You fainted," Kelvin said quietly, his tone softer now. "When was the last time you ate?" She shook her head, embarrassed. "I'm fine, sir. I didn't sleep much." Kelvin studied her pale face. He had noticed her before, always sitting quietly, always writing carefully, never joining the noisy laughter of her classmates. Now, seeing her up close, he realized how thin and exhausted she looked. He straightened and helped her sit up. "Rest. Don't argue," he said. Students whispered among themselves, eyes wide. It wasn't every day the famous Kelvin stopped a lecture to care for a student. But for some reason, he couldn't look away from Amelia. There was something in her eyes, something that carried both strength and pain. He felt a strange pull, curiosity mixed with concern. And that was the moment his interest in her truly began. That evening, the piano lounge was dimly lit, its soft lights glowing over polished tables and red chairs. The faint sound of clinking glasses mixed with the gentle notes from the old upright piano in the corner. Amelia's fingers moved across the keys slowly, her body tired but her mind pushing through. She had to keep this job. Every little bit of money mattered. The door opened, and her heart skipped. Kelvin. He entered with the same calm authority he carried in the lecture hall. He didn't notice her at first, ordering a drink at the counter. But when his eyes wandered to the piano, they stopped. Amelia froze, almost missing a note. He walked toward her. "I see you work here," he said quietly, standing by the piano. "Even after fainting this morning, you're still here working late into the night." She looked down at the keys. "I don't have a choice, sir." Kelvin pulled a chair and sat near her. "Why? Why push yourself like this? You're one of the best students in your department. I've seen your records. And yet you're killing yourself with side jobs. Why?" Amelia's hands trembled as they pressed the keys. For a moment she didn't answer, but then she whispered, "Because my tuition is overdue. 20,000. If I don't pay, they'll withdraw me. Kelvin's jaw tightened, but she continued, her voice breaking. And my brother? He's been in a coma for 2 years. The hospital keeps asking for deposits. I can barely manage food, let alone hospital bills. She stopped playing, her fingers falling limp. Her eyes burned, but she blinked fast, refusing to cry in front of him. Kelvin leaned back, studying her. For the first time, she looked fragile, not just tired. There was something in her words that struck him deeply. After a long silence, he spoke. I can give you 500,000. Her head snapped up. What? He looked straight at her, his voice steady. Spend one night with me, just one. I'll give you 500,000. Amelia's heart thudded. Her throat went dry. No, I can't. She shook her head quickly. How could I? You're my lecturer. How will I face you in class after that? Kelvin's lips curved slightly, not in mockery but in calm explanation. I was only a guest speaker. The lecture today was my last. The university invited me, but my time is already full with my company. I won't be teaching again. Her chest tightened. The excuse she was holding on to slipped away. Amelia, he said firmly, you need money. You said it yourself. Tuition, your brother's care. 500,000 will cover all of that and more. She gripped the piano edge, shame pressing on her like a heavy weight. Every part of her wanted to say no. But then David's pale face flashed in her mind, the hospital nurses asking for deposits, the thought of dropping out of school after all her hard work. Her voice cracked. How could I live with myself? Kelvin's eyes softened slightly. Sometimes survival leaves no easy choices. You don't have to like me. Just take what you need. Her tears threatened to fall. She turned her face away, whispering, Well, I guess I don't have much of a choice. He stood and extended his hand. Come with me. For a moment she sat frozen. Then slowly, trembling, she placed her hand in his. The drive to Kelvin's penthouse was quiet. Amelia sat stiffly in the passenger seat, staring out the window at the blur of city lights. Her palms felt damp, and every passing second reminded her of the weight of her decision. When they arrived, Kelvin's driver opened the door. The building towered above the city, glass windows reflecting the night sky. Inside, the penthouse was breathtaking, high ceilings, polished floors, and warm lighting that glowed over expensive furniture. To Amelia, it felt like another world, far from her small rented room and hospital corridors. She wrapped her arms around herself. I'd like to wash up first, she murmured. Kelvin nodded and led her to the bathroom. You'll find fresh towels inside. Amelia stepped in, her reflection staring back at her in the wide mirror. She touched her face, whispering to herself, just one night. For David. For school. She washed her face, steadied her breath, and when she came out she was wearing one of Kelvin's crisp shirts that hung loosely on her frame. Kelvin looked up from where he stood by the window. His eyes softened briefly. That's my shirt. She tugged at the hem nervously. My clothes are wet. Wine spilled on me earlier while I was at the lounge. He smirked faintly. So that's what you planned all along? To steal my clothes? Amelia's cheeks flushed. No, I just didn't have anything else. He stepped closer, his gaze steady. How much do you want? I can increase the amount I offered earlier. His tone was blunt, businesslike, as if sealing a deal. Her eyes widened. No, please. I don't want more. 500 is enough. Kelvin studied her for a moment. She looked nervous, her fingers twisting the shirt's sleeve. For the first time, he sighed softly. If you're uncomfortable, Amelia, you can leave. No one is forcing you. Her heart pounded. She swallowed hard, shaking her head. I'm not uncomfortable. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I'll stay. Silence lingered between them, heavy with unspoken words. Then Kelvin made the first move. He stepped closer, tilting her chin gently with his hand, his lips pressed against hers in a sudden, passionate kiss. Amelia froze at first, her body tense. But slowly, she returned the kiss, awkward and nervous, her heart racing in her chest. Kelvin deepened the kiss, pulling her closer. The warmth of his touch made her forget, just for a moment, the shame, the fear, and the weight of her choice. Without another word, he lifted her in his arms and carried her to the bed. That night, Amelia and Kelvin spent their first night together. bound by desperation, silence, and a deal neither of them fully understood. The pale morning light slipped through the wide glass windows of Kelvin's penthouse. Amelia stirred, her head heavy from a night of little sleep. For a moment she forgot where she was, until her eyes caught the tall figure standing by the balcony, his suit jacket already on, sipping a glass of water. Reality rushed back. She quickly sat up, pulling the large shirt around herself. Her bag lay neatly on the chair where she had left it. She stood ready to leave, her mind already racing to her part-time job. "I need to go," she said quietly, trying to avoid his eyes. "I have work this afternoon." Kelvin turned, his gaze sharp but calm. "You're leaving without eating?" "I don't have time." He set the glass down and walked toward her. "Amelia, you're weak. You have a fever. Last night was your first time. Your body is fragile. You can't keep surviving on snacks and junk food." She froze. He had noticed. "I'll tell the maids to cook something nice," he continued, his voice firm but not unkind. "Eat first, then you can leave." She shook her head quickly, clutching her bag. "No, please, don't. This was the last time. I won't be back." Kelvin's eyes narrowed slightly. "So that's it? You want to walk away and pretend this never happened?" "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I can't have a future with you. I don't want one. I just needed the money." He studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then almost too softly he asked, "Amelia, do you want to be with me?" Her chest tightened. For a second she couldn't breathe. She looked away, blinking fast. "No," she said firmly, though her voice cracked. "There is no future for us." Silence filled the room. Kelvin stepped back, his face calm again, though his eyes still lingered on her. "If that's what you want," he said slowly. Amelia gripped her bag tighter and turned toward the door. Her heart was heavy, her mind in chaos. Her hand was already on the door handle when she stopped. Slowly she turned back to face Kelvin. When will you transfer the money?" she asked quietly, her eyes lowered. Kelvin's lips curved slightly, amused at her bluntness. "So that's what's really on your mind." Without another word, he pulled out his phone. A few taps later, Amelia's phone buzzed in her bag. She opened it and gasped. 1 million had just entered her account. Her mouth opened slightly. You promised 500. "I changed my mind," Kelvin said casually. "Take it. And here." He reached into his wallet and held out a sleek black bank card. "Use it whenever you need. Spend it as you like." Amelia hesitated, then took the card with trembling fingers, but almost instantly she shoved it back toward him. "No, I don't want charity. I'll only take what I'm owed. Nothing more." Kelvin's brow lifted, impressed by her firmness. "Fine, then keep the transfer, but give me your number." Her chest tightened. "Why?" "Because I asked," he said simply, his voice steady. Reluctantly, Amelia typed her number into his phone. He saved it without looking at her again. That afternoon, as she prepared for her piano lounge shift, her phone lit up. Kelvin was calling. She stared at the screen, her hands trembling. Her heart raced, shame pressing down on her. She couldn't answer. A second later, another call came. She pressed decline. Her throat tightened. Then she blocked the number. Tears pricked her eyes, but she shook her head hard. No. She told herself she couldn't go back. It had only been desperation, her tuition, her brother's bills. That was all. She shouldn't feel anything for a man like Kelvin. "He's a rich CEO," she whispered to herself, hugging her knees in her small room. "I'm nothing. He probably just wanted a side fling. I won't keep selling myself. Last night was already more than I can bear. My virginity was gone in one night. I can't keep doing this, selling myself for money." Meanwhile, in his office, Kelvin sat behind his wide glass desk, scrolling through his phone. He called again, but the line didn't connect. He frowned, tried once more, then leaned back slowly. "She blocked me," he muttered. His jaw tightened. His secretary knocked gently and stepped in with files, but Kelvin barely looked up. His thoughts were stuck on her, the quiet girl with tired eyes who had dared to reject his money. "She was only with me for the money," he said under his breath. But why can't I stop thinking about her? He stared at the ceiling, frustration burning in his chest. I don't like people owing me, he growled softly. She owes me. I want repayment. But even as he said it, he knew the truth was deeper. He was conflicted, because somewhere between anger and pride, he realized he was drawn to her, and that terrified him more than anything else. The next morning, Amelia walked quickly across campus, hugging her worn-out books to her chest. Her head was low, and though she tried to block it out, the whispers reached her ears. There she goes again with her soya milk and dry buns. Maybe she thinks it's diet food. Look how skinny she's getting. She should be a hawker, not a student. Amelia pressed her lips together and kept walking. She sat in the lecture hall, unwrapping the same small meal she always ate, buns and a carton of soya milk. She chewed slowly, trying not to care. But the mocking voices grew louder. Did you see her yesterday? Always pretending to be humble. She probably has some secret sugar daddy paying her bills. Sugar daddy? That poor thing? Please. Amelia closed her eyes briefly, forcing herself to stay calm. Then Lily entered the hall. She was tall, confident, her hair neatly styled, her dress expensive. Everyone admired her. She was the campus beauty queen. Or at least she had been, until last semester's pageant when Amelia, without even trying, had walked away with the crown. Lily had never forgiven her for that. Look at her, Lily said loudly, her voice carrying through the room. Acting innocent with her buns. But who knows what she does behind the scenes? You all saw the way she fainted, pretending to be weak to get attention. Don't be fooled. Girls like her survive on their looks. Laughter rippled through the hall. Amelia's cheeks burned, but she kept her eyes on her notebook. The room suddenly fell silent. The door opened, and in walked Kelvin. He was dressed sharply in a dark suit, his presence commanding instant respect. Students straightened in their seats, some whispering in excitement. Professor Kelvin, one student murmured. He's back? Amelia's stomach dropped. Her pen nearly slipped from her fingers. Her mind raced. Why is he here? He said that lecture was his last. He told me he had no time for this. Kelvin walked to the front, his expression calm, unreadable. He set his papers on the desk and looked up, his sharp eyes sweeping across the hall. For the briefest moment, his gaze landed on Amelia. Her heart stopped. She quickly lowered her head, pretending to scribble in her notebook. She couldn't let him see the panic in her eyes. Students whispered excitedly. But for Amelia, it was something else entirely. The man she wanted to avoid at all costs was standing right in front of her again. And she had no idea why. Kelvin stood tall at the front of the hall. His economics is not only about numbers. It is about choices, hard choices. Every decision has a price, and sometimes survival pushes people into paths they never imagined. The students leaned in, hanging on to his words. His lectures always had that effect. He spoke with the weight of real experience. But Amelia couldn't focus. Her pen scratched across the page, yet nothing made sense. Every time she tried to write, she felt his eyes on her. Was he speaking to the class or to her? Beside her, Lily smirked and whispered loud enough for others to hear. See how red Amelia's face is? I told you she's relying on her looks. Who knows what dirty things she's doing behind closed doors? More giggles followed. Amelia gripped her pen so tightly her knuckles turned white. When the lecture finally ended, she rushed to pack her books, hoping to slip out unseen. But before she could escape, a familiar deep voice stopped her. Amelia. She froze. Slowly she turned. Kelvin stood at the doorway waiting. Students brushed past, giving curious glances, but his eyes were fixed only on her. Why didn't you return my calls? His tone was calm but carried an edge. You blocked me. Why? Amelia's throat tightened. She looked away. Because I don't need you, Mr. Kelvin. That night, it was a mistake. I don't want you interfering in my life. His jaw tightened, but his voice stayed steady. So you regret it? Her eyes flashed as she finally met his gaze. I don't regret surviving. But don't confuse one desperate night with anything else. I am fine on my own. For a long moment he studied her, as if searching for cracks in her words. Then he stepped aside, letting her go. Amelia walked past him quickly, her heart pounding. That night, Amelia returned to the piano lounge, her small hands gliding over the keys. The manager approached, dropping an envelope of cash onto the piano. "Good job tonight. Half your payment up front, the rest after." "Thank you," she murmured. But just as she turned, 3 rough-looking men entered, their eyes locked onto her, their steps heavy. One slammed his hand against the piano. "You," he barked. "You took money that wasn't yours." Amelia stumbled back, confused. "What? No, I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie!" another shouted. "You think you can play smart with Michael? You won't see tomorrow morning if you don't return what you stole." Her heart raced. She shook her head desperately. "Please, I never took anything. I don't even know what you are talking about. Who is this Michael?" One of them reached for her arm. Amelia gasped. Fear paralyzed her body. Suddenly a voice barked from the shadows. "Enough!" The men froze. 2 other figures emerged quietly from the corner of the lounge. They weren't strangers. Amelia recognized them as Kelvin's bodyguards. One stepped forward, his hand firm. "If you value your lives, leave the girl, now." The thugs exchanged nervous glances, then cursed under their breath before backing away. Before Amelia could catch her breath, one of Kelvin's men leaned close and whispered, "Follow me." He led her behind the piano, through a narrow corridor she had never noticed. A hidden door opened into a dark passage. "This way," he urged. Shaking, Amelia followed, the sounds of the lounge fading behind her. By the time she stepped out into the cool night air, her knees were trembling. She clutched her bag tightly. She had no doubt about it now. Kelvin's shadow was everywhere in her life, even when she swore she wanted no part of him. Days passed after the frightening incident at the piano lounge. Amelia tried to bury herself in classes, her tutoring jobs, and hospital visits. She wanted to forget about Kelvin, to push him out of her thoughts. But it was never that easy. His shadow lingered, his voice, his questions, his presence. One morning, Amelia walked into the bursar's office at the university. She had scraped together a few thousand from tutoring and wanted to at least pay part of her tuition balance. The woman at the counter looked up. "Name? Amelia James." The woman typed, then raised her brows. "You don't owe anything. In fact, your tuition has been fully paid, not just for this semester, but for the whole year. And there's a scholarship attached to your record now. You won't need to pay again until graduation." Amelia froze. "What?" The woman smiled. "Congratulations. Looks like you have a sponsor." Her chest tightened. She stumbled out of the office, her mind racing. Who could have done this? Later that afternoon in the hallway, a classmate leaned close to her. "Hey, Amelia. I saw something weird the other day." A man in a suit who looked like he was in his 30s came to the bursar's office. I think he was handling some payments. He didn't look like a parent. He looked more like a businessman, and I heard him mention your name when I walked by. Amelia's heart sank. She knew. That evening, when Kelvin appeared on campus, she caught him just as he was leaving. "Why?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why would you do that?" He looked at her calmly. "Do what?" "My tuition. The scholarship." "Was that you?" His face remained unreadable. "I don't know what you're talking about." Her fists clenched at her sides. "Don't lie to me, Kelvin. I know it was you. Why? Do you pity me? Do you think I'm some charity case?" For the first time, his eyes softened. "Amelia," he said quietly, "does it matter who paid? What matters is that you can focus on school now. Isn't that what you wanted?" Her chest ached. She didn't know if she should scream or cry. She felt humiliated, like her pride had been stripped away. Yet deep down, a tiny part of her was touched. Did he actually like her? Or was this just another rich man's way of buying control? She couldn't answer. Not to him, not even to herself. So she turned away, her voice breaking. "I don't need your pity. Not like this." Kelvin stood still, watching her walk away, his hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. But inside, he knew the truth. This girl had stirred something in him he couldn't ignore, no matter how much she pushed him away. Later that day, Kelvin sat in the family dining room, his posture straight, his face unreadable. Across the table, Madame Rose, his mother, sipped her tea with slow grace. but her words carried the sharpness of command. "Kelvin," she said, setting the cup down, "it is time you settled down. Enough of all this wandering around. A man of your status cannot remain single. People are watching." Kelvin stayed silent, his eyes fixed on the table. Madame Rose continued, her tone firmer. "I've already spoken with the Wilson family. Janet will make the perfect wife. Her father is influential in politics. Their family will strengthen ours. You will marry her." Kelvin looked up, his jaw tight. "Mother." He paused, then lied smoothly. "I already have a girlfriend." Madame Rose raised a brow. "A girlfriend? Who?" "You don't know her," Kelvin replied calmly. "But she's the one I want." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "If she doesn't come from a family of status, then she is not suitable." Kelvin leaned back. "Status is not what I care about." Madame Rose shook her head slowly, her voice cold. "Then you will destroy everything your father built. Think carefully, Kelvin." Despite his words, Janet soon began appearing at his side. At charity banquets, business galas, and political dinners, she was always there, elegant, smiling, greeting guests as if she were already his fiancée. One evening, Amelia walked past the lobby of a hotel where a major event was taking place. She froze when she saw them. Kelvin in his dark suit, Janet in a flowing red gown, standing close, their laughter soft, their smiles too easy. Her chest tightened painfully. She stepped back, but not before hearing Janet's voice float through the air. "You know, Kelvin, we make such a good pair. Everyone says so." Amelia's stomach knotted. "So that's what I am? Just a distraction while he keeps women like her for the world to see?" The next day she found him alone on campus. She couldn't hold it in anymore. "Why are you doing this?" she demanded, her voice sharp. Kelvin looked up surprised. "Doing what?" "Parading around with that woman and doing things for me." Amelia's eyes filled with anger and pain. "Do you think I don't see? You're just like the others, using me in the dark while you show off someone else in the light." His expression hardened. "Amelia." "No!" She cut him off, her voice trembling. "Don't pretend with me. I was desperate and you knew it. You gave me money. You paid my fees. You saved me from trouble. But in the end, I'm nothing to you, am I? Just another girl you can use." Her words hung heavy in the air. Kelvin clenched his jaw, his eyes narrowing, but he said nothing at first. Amelia's heart ached as she turned away. I should have known. I don't belong in his world. She walked quickly out of the building, but her chest ached with every step. She hadn't realized until now just how deeply she had fallen for Kelvin. The sight of him beside Janet had cut through her like a blade. "Why does it hurt this much?" she thought, blinking back tears. "I told myself it was just money, just survival. So why can't I let him go?" Her phone buzzed in her hand. "Hello? This is City General Hospital. Is this Amelia James?" Her heart stopped. Yes, it's me. It's about your brother. His condition has worsened. You need to come as soon as possible." Her knees nearly buckled. "I'll be there," she whispered, her voice shaking. The next day in class, Amelia sat at her desk, her eyes fixed on her notebook but her mind far away. She hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, the doctor's words replaying in her head. Kelvin stood at the podium, giving another guest lecture. But while he spoke about global markets and economic models, his eyes flickered often to Amelia. She wasn't writing, wasn't even pretending to listen. Her face was pale, her shoulders slumped. After class ended, as students filed out, Kelvin stopped her at the doorway. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice low. She forced a small smile. "Nothing, I'm fine." "Don't lie to me, Amelia." Her eyes darted away. "It's none of your business. Please, don't bother." She slipped past him before he could stop her. Kelvin stood still, his jaw tight. He knew something was wrong. He pulled out his phone and called his assistant. "Find out everything about Amelia James. Now." That evening, the file landed on his desk. Kelvin read through it silently, each page tightening his chest. Parents dead. Brother bedridden in a coma for 2 years. Hospital debts unpaid. Jobs: piano lounge, tutoring and waiting tables. Grades: excellent. Kelvin leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. She had been carrying the weight of the world, all on her own. No family to lean on, no one to protect her. And still she hadn't given up. For the first time in a long while, something moved inside him. Something deeper than attraction. Respect. He picked up the phone again. Get me the best doctors in the country. I don't care what it costs. I want every option on the table for her brother. 2 days later, Kelvin stood in his office with the doctor's reports. One of them spoke cautiously. There is a new treatment plan. It has shown results overseas, but it is expensive, about 1 million. Kelvin didn't blink. Do it, I'll cover it. That evening he met Amelia outside the hospital. She looked worn out, her eyes swollen from crying. Amelia, he said gently, there's a treatment that might help David. It will cost 1 million. I'll pay for it. Her head snapped up. No, I can't accept that. That is too much money. Why not? Because I can't be controlled by your money. Her voice broke. Every time I turn around, you're there fixing my life with your wealth. I don't want to owe you. I don't want to feel like I'm being bought. Kelvin's eyes softened. This isn't about control. This is about saving your brother. Amelia, he doesn't have time. Her lips trembled. She turned away, hugging her arms. I can't. Then let me. His voice was firmer now. Don't let your pride destroy him. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Her heart screamed against itself. She hated the feeling of dependence, but when she thought of David lying helpless in that hospital bed, she broke. Fine, she whispered, her voice shaking. Do it. But listen to me, Kelvin. I'll repay you, every penny. I won't let this become another chain you hold over me. Kelvin studied her silently, then nodded. Then repay me. But first, let him live. And for the first time, Amelia's wall of pride cracked, not in defeat, but in desperate hope. A few days after Kelvin arranged David's treatment, Amelia tried to find peace. She went to classes, worked her shifts, and spent long hours at the hospital. She told herself she would stay far from Kelvin. He belonged to a world that wasn't hers, a world of money, power, and danger. But trouble had already found her. One evening, as she left the piano lounge after her shift, a black van screeched to a stop in front of her. Before she could scream, rough hands grabbed her. A cloth was pressed over her mouth. Darkness swallowed her. When she woke, Amelia found herself in a dim, windowless room with other frightened women. Their wrists were bound, and fear hung in the air like smoke. Whispers passed between them. It's an auction. If you're not sold, you're killed. Her heart raced. She realized she had been taken by traffickers, and she knew whose name lingered behind it. Michael. That name again. Who was he and why was he after her? She wondered. They were dragged into a hall lined with masked men and women, their cold eyes scanning the captives. An auctioneer's voice echoed. Beautiful, young, fresh. We'll start the bidding at 1 million. Amelia's stomach twisted. She couldn't breathe. The bids rose quickly. 1.5. 2 million. Her chest pounded, her legs trembling as she was pushed forward under the harsh light. 2.5 million. 3 million. The room went silent. The voice was calm, commanding, and final. The gavel slammed down. Sold. Hours later, Amelia stumbled into the safety of a quiet hidden lounge. 2 familiar men, Kelvin's bodyguards, guided her in. She looked up, her tears blurring her vision. And then she saw him. Kelvin stood there, his suit immaculate as always, but his eyes carried a storm. He crossed the room in 2 strides, his hand steady on her shoulder. You're safe now, he said softly. Her lips trembled. You paid 3 million for me. He looked at her, his voice low and raw. I would have paid more. Amelia, I felt something the moment I first saw you, like I already knew you. And after that night, I wanted you so badly I couldn't let go. She shook her head, overwhelmed. She couldn't respond to words so deep, so heavy. All she could whisper was, thank you. Thank you for saving me. Kelvin's jaw tightened. Michael is behind this. He's been watching me for years, waiting for a weakness. He saw you and he struck. You were targeted because of me. Amelia's heart sank. Her fists clenched at her sides. She now knew who Michael was. It had nothing to do with her. He was Kelvin's rival. Then this proves what I've been saying all along. I don't belong in your world. Your world is too dangerous for me. If staying near you puts my life at risk, then I need to stay away. Her voice cracked on the last word, but she forced herself to turn, her back stiff, her tears falling silently. Kelvin's eyes followed her, burning with the fear that this time she might mean it. Days after the kidnapping, Amelia tried to return to her normal routine, but her body was failing her. She woke each morning with waves of nausea, her stomach twisting. She could hardly keep food down, and her head ached constantly. Her periods were late, and the fear in her chest grew heavier with every day that passed. One evening, as she sat on the edge of her narrow bed clutching her stomach, there was a knock at the door. She opened it and froze. Kelvin stood there. Her heart leapt to her throat. How did you find my house?" His eyes scanned her pale face before answering. "I know a lot about you, Amelia. More than you think." Her hands trembled. "You had no right. I had every right." He cut in firmly, then softened his tone. "I've seen what you're going through. You're not well. You need help." Before she could protest, he guided her gently outside. "You're coming with me." At the hospital, the doctor examined her carefully, then sighed. "Miss James, your stomach is badly inflamed, malnutrition, stress, lack of proper meals. You've been living on snacks and poor food for too long. If you continue like this, you'll collapse again, maybe worse." Amelia's eyes fell to the floor. She felt small, exposed. The doctor added kindly, "You must take your health seriously. 3 proper meals, enough rest, and no more starving yourself." Kelvin stood silently beside her, his face hard with concern. When the doctor left, he spoke softly. "Didn't I tell you? You can't survive on buns and soya milk forever." Amelia blinked back tears. She wanted to argue, to tell him she could handle herself, but deep down, she knew he was right. The next week at school, the whispers began again. "Did you see her with Mr. Kelvin? They were talking after class the other day. I heard he came to pick her up. She must be his mistress. She's not even pretty enough to catch a CEO. She must be doing something else." Amelia's face burned as she walked through the hallways, pretending not to hear. And then, as if to confirm all the rumors, Kelvin made a grand donation to the university. A pair of state-of-the-art libraries. The school buzzed with excitement, but the gossip about Amelia only grew louder. Of course. He's building libraries for the school because of her. She's bought her way into his life somehow. I knew she wasn't innocent. Amelia sat in class, her notebook open, her heart heavy. She wanted to disappear, to shrink into nothing. Every time she tried to escape his shadow, it followed her, louder, brighter, more impossible to deny. And for the first time, she wondered if the very man who kept saving her might also be the one destroying her peace. That night, unable to take it anymore, she picked up her phone and dialed Kelvin's number. He answered almost instantly. "Amelia?" Her voice shook. "Why are you doing this? Why won't you leave me alone?" "Come to my house," he said firmly. "We'll talk there." When she arrived, Kelvin opened the door and led her inside. The silence between them was heavy until she finally burst out. "Why? Why are you paying my fees, saving me, building libraries? What do you want from me? Do you want me to keep owing you forever?" Kelvin's eyes locked onto hers, his voice calm but unwavering. "I don't want repayment. I want you. I want to be with you." Amelia froze, her heart pounding. She opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, the front door opened again. "Kelvin!" a commanding voice called. Amelia turned. It was Madame Rose. Kelvin didn't hesitate. He stepped closer to Amelia and said, "Mother, this is Amelia, my girlfriend." Amelia's breath caught. She couldn't even speak. Madame Rose's eyes widened in shock, then narrowed with fury. "Her? This poor-looking girl? Kelvin, you will ruin yourself. She is unworthy of you." Amelia's chest tightened, but she remained silent. Kelvin's jaw set. "This is my choice." Madame Rose's face turned cold as stone. She left without another word, but the fire in her eyes promised the battle wasn't over. A week later, Amelia was leaving campus when Janet appeared, blocking her path. Dressed in a designer gown, her smile was sharp as a blade. "So you're the one," Janet sneered. "The little charity case who thinks she can steal my man. How much are you charging him, Amelia? Or do you give it to him for free?" Amelia's fists clenched. I'm not stealing anyone, and Kelvin doesn't belong to you. Janet laughed bitterly. You're a gold digger, that's all. Don't think you can rise above your place. You'll never fit in his world. Amelia turned away, her eyes burning, but her voice steady. I never asked for his world. But I won't let you insult me. Meanwhile, at Kelvin's company, storms were rising. Boardroom whispers had reached his ears. Executives plotting, deals being sabotaged, betrayals cutting from within. Kelvin moved with cold precision. One by one, he exposed the guilty, firing several high-ranking men in a single week. From now on, Kelvin declared at board meeting, his voice like steel. This company answers only to me. Loyalty is not negotiable. His authority solidified, his enemies trembled. But behind the cold fire in his eyes, one truth remained. All of this power meant nothing without Amelia. And that truth was the one thing he couldn't control. After stamping out betrayal in his company, Kelvin should have felt victorious. But instead he sat in his office, restless, his mind not on contracts or profits, but on Amelia. She haunted him. Her eyes, her stubborn pride, her fragile strength. Every time he looked at her, he felt something deeper than attraction. Something older. Something that had no name. That evening, Kelvin called his secretary. Linda, bring me everything you can on Amelia James. I want every detail, family, history, all of it. Linda hesitated. Sir, we've already pulled her file once. Do it again, Kelvin said firmly. Look deeper. I need to understand why she feels so familiar. The next day, Linda placed a thicker file on his desk. There's something I didn't include before, she said carefully. Because, well, I wasn't sure it mattered. Kelvin opened the file. His eyes scanned quickly, then stopped. His father's name was there. Linda explained softly. Years ago, your late father supported Amelia's parents. They were poor but loyal workers in one of his community projects. He helped fund her father's small shop, and when her mother fell sick, he paid for her treatment. After your father's death, the support ended, and they struggled again. Eventually, tragedy struck. They both passed, leaving Amelia and her brother alone. Kelvin's breath caught. His mind reeled. My father. He knew them? Linda nodded. Yes. Amelia's family was close to your father in ways few others were. He always said they were good people, people worth standing for. I think her father helped yours a very long time ago. Kelvin leaned back in his chair, stunned. The pull he'd felt, the strange familiarity, it wasn't in his head. His father's kindness had planted a thread that tied their lives together long before they ever met. That evening, Kelvin invited Amelia to his home. She came reluctantly, her guard still high. I asked you here because there's something you need to know, Kelvin said quietly. My father knew your family. He helped them once, long ago. Amelia blinked, confused. What? Your father? Yes. Kelvin's voice trembled slightly. When I first saw you, I felt something, like I already knew you. Now I understand. You're not just anyone, Amelia. You were already part of my family's story before we even met. I remember my father telling me he had a wife for me, Mr. James's daughter, he had said. Now I understand. How ironic. Amelia's hands shook as she held the edge of the chair. Her voice cracked. All this time, you were connected to us? Your father. He was the man my parents always spoke about. The one who helped us when we had nothing. I never even knew his name, but it was him. Kelvin reached for her hand. Now do you see why I can't let you go? This isn't charity. This isn't pity. It was always meant to be. Amelia said nothing. She just stared at him, trying to process it all. The next day, Madame Rose arrived unannounced, her face hard as stone. Kelvin, she snapped, have you ended things with that girl? Kelvin stood tall. No, and you won't ask me to again. Madame Rose's eyes narrowed until Kelvin handed her the file. She skimmed through, and her breath caught. Tears welled in her eyes as she sat slowly. Your father, she whispered. He told me about this family before he died. Her father had helped your father, a simple act of kindness that stayed with him. He said if there was ever a chance to repay them, to protect their children, we must never fail. And now, it's her. For the first time, her voice broke. Kelvin nodded. It's Amelia, and I love her. Madame Rose covered her mouth, overcome by emotion. When she finally looked up, her voice was soft. Then she belongs here. She was always meant to. Amelia, standing in the corner, gasped, tears rolling down her cheeks. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Kelvin turned to her, his eyes burning with certainty. Now you see, Amelia. This isn't chance. This isn't debt. This is us. And I will never let you doubt my love again. Amelia's heart broke open, torn between shock, relief, and a love she had fought so hard to deny. Madame Rose sat quietly in the living room, her hands folded over Amelia's. Her stern face had softened into something Amelia never thought she would see. Acceptance. My dear, Madame Rose said gently, I was wrong about you. Your family's name carries honor because of what my late husband once told me, and beyond that, you have carried yourself with strength and dignity despite all you've suffered. From today, you are welcome in this family. Amelia's eyes filled with tears. She had braced herself for rejection, for endless battles, but instead she found warmth. She bowed her head, whispering, Thank you, Mom. Kelvin placed an arm around her shoulder, pride flickering in his eyes. For the first time in a long while, Amelia allowed herself to feel safe. Then her phone rang. She almost didn't answer, but when she saw the hospital's number, her heart jumped. With trembling hands, she picked up. Hello? Yes, this is Amelia. The voice on the other end was urgent but joyful. Miss James, it's about your brother David. He's awake. The treatment worked. He has come out of the coma. Amelia's breath caught. What? Say that again? He's awake? Yes, the nurse confirmed. He's asking for you. The phone slipped slightly in Amelia's hand. She looked at Kelvin, her voice breaking. David, he's awake. Kelvin's hand tightened reassuringly around hers. Let's go. At the hospital, Amelia pushed open the door to David's room, her heart in her throat. There he was, sitting up weakly in bed, his eyes open, his lips forming a tired smile. Amelia! She ran to him, sobbing, clutching his hands. David, oh, thank God you're back. David smiled faintly, his voice hoarse. I dreamt, but now I see you. Amelia turned, tears streaming down her cheeks. There's someone you need to meet. Kelvin stepped forward, his tall figure calm, his expression gentle. This is Kelvin, Amelia said, her voice trembling with pride. He's the one who helped us through it all, the reason you could wake up. David's gaze rested on Kelvin. Slowly, he lifted his weak hand. Then, you are the man who saved our family. Kelvin reached forward and clasped his hand firmly. His voice was deep, steady. There's no need for thanks between us. Our bond runs deeper than that. Just live, David. Live the life you were meant to have. For a long moment, silence filled the room. Amelia looked from her brother to Kelvin, her heart swelling with a truth she could no longer deny. His love was never pity. It was never control. It was care. It was real. And finally, she let herself believe it. A few days after David woke up, Kelvin knew it was time for everyone to know how he felt, so he decided to call a press conference. The hall was packed with reporters, cameras flashing wildly as Kelvin stepped up to the podium. His tall frame and calm presence commanded silence. He adjusted the microphone, his face steady. Thank you all for coming, he began, his voice deep and sure. There have been rumors about my future, rumors of a marriage arranged for political gain. The crowd murmured. Kelvin's gaze sharpened. Let me make it clear today. I reject that marriage. I will not marry Janet Wilson. Status, wealth, and politics mean nothing to me if love is not there. Gasps spread through the audience. Flashes exploded from cameras. And there is only one woman I choose, Kelvin continued, his eyes softening now. Her name is Amelia James. She is the woman I love, the woman I will spend my life with. The hall erupted into shouts and questions, but Kelvin simply stepped back, his expression unwavering. He had said what needed to be said. Across town, Janet watched the broadcast, Her face twisted in anger. "How dare he humiliate me like this?" she spat. Her parents tried to console her, but she lifted her chin proudly. "I'm leaving," she announced coldly. "I'll go back to the United States. There's nothing left for me here." And just like that, she walked away, defeated. That evening, Kelvin invited Amelia to a quiet, luxurious dinner. The restaurant glowed with soft golden light, the city skyline stretching beyond the glass windows. A string quartet played softly in the corner. Amelia wore a simple gown, her nerves visible in the way her fingers toyed with the edge of her napkin. "Why did you bring me here?" she asked softly. Kelvin leaned forward, his eyes holding hers. "Because I have something to ask you." He stood, walked around the table, and knelt in front of her. Gasps rippled through the restaurant, but all Amelia saw was him. "Amelia," Kelvin said, his voice steady but full of emotion, "I've fought my rivals, faced my mother's doubts, and rejected politics and power, all because none of it matters without you. Michael has been dealt with. His crimes are exposed, and he is already behind bars. You are safe now. No one will ever hurt you again." Her breath caught, tears filling her eyes. "I love you," Kelvin continued. "I want you as my partner, my wife, my forever. Will you marry me?" Amelia's heart raced. Fear and hope battled inside her. "Kelvin, your world is so powerful, so dangerous. I don't know if I can survive in it." He reached for her hand, his grip strong and warm. "You won't survive it alone. You'll survive it with me, because you are my world now." Tears spilled down her cheeks as she finally let go of her doubts. "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Yes, I'll marry you. Thank you for being my rock, for never giving up on me. I love you too." The restaurant erupted in applause as Kelvin slipped the ring onto her finger. He pulled her close, their lips meeting in a kiss filled with promise, relief, and love that had survived every test. And so, the girl who once lived on steamed buns and soy milk found herself hand in hand with the man who had turned her life upside down. Their bond had been tested by money, betrayal, danger, and class divide, but in the end, it survived through love.